Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Friday market update. So, guys, on this session, I'm going to be updating you on the pairs that we've been tracking for the past few days. So, I did make a couple of changes to our watch list because the previous pairs that we were looking at, I think from one Monday up until Wednesday, were interrupted by I think it was FOMC or PPI news or something like that. So I ended up going with a different watch list. But our VIP members on Discord, I've been updating you with these new pairs. So are now currently focused on these new pairs. So these are our new pairs that we are keeping an eye on. So guys, first and foremost, we're having the DXY. Let's jump on the daily. So with the DXY, as we're coming on to the daily time frame, we do see this coming from this heavy impulsive move up, giving us with this corrective structure, price forming a breakout. So this is having a high probability of continuing to impulse all the way to the upside. And now coming on to our mid time frame. So on the mid time frame, at the moment, we are not seeing anything much. So that is when we're doing what? Dropping onto the lower time frame. So on the lower time frame previously, this is how we're looking at things. So we're looking at this as what is our overall correct continuation structure. Price from the breakout, dropped a bit, and then price ended up doing what? Ended up climbing all the way to the upside. So we can draw this one possibly like so. For this to be what? That continuation pattern to the upside. And now moving on to our next pair, which is what? The New Zealand dollar over the US dollar. So let us drop onto the daily time frame. So on the daily, we do see price coming from this impulsive move, giving us what this overall corrective structure. So this is having a high probability of continuing to drop all the way to the downside. And now coming on to our mid-time frame. So on the mid-time frame, we do see that corrective structure even more clearer. And now as we're dropping onto the lower time frame. So on the lower time frame, this is what we use to enter our overall trade. Price coming from this impulsive move, giving us what this overall continuation structure in order for us to ride this possible next impulsive wave to the downside. And now for our next pair, we did have what? Euro USD. So with Euro USD, let us jump on the daily. So on the daily, we do have what? That impulsive move. This is what our corrective structure from the breakout. This is having what? Some more potential to continue to drop to the downside. And now coming into our mid-time frame, you can see that continuation structure even more clearer. And now dropping onto the lower time frame. So on the lower time frame, this was the first entry that we did take a look at. And this was the second entry. So this one didn't quite work out well, but price eventually did drop to the downside. So now what we are focusing on this one is for price to give us what? A simple corrective structure that we can use to execute our sales once again. Something like this would be more than sufficient in order for us to execute our sales once again on this pair. Something like this. So now for our next pair, which is what? The GBP over the US dollar. So on this one, previously we had a trade on this one, but on my side, I did end up closing this one manually. So this one on the daily, we do have this is our impulsive move. This is what our corrective structure. This is having what the high probability of continuing to impulse down. Just remove this alert. So now coming on to our mid-time frame. So on the mid-time frame with this one, at the moment, we can see this as what is being a continuation structure, but previously, this is how we are looking at things. So this is how I entered this one. So this is how I executed this one on the breakout, but price eventually what happened, it did end up going back inside. So while price was floating somewhere around there, so I decided to close this one for a 0.5% loss, 0.5% loss on this one. But price currently is dropping in our overall direction. And now if we can go into our mid-term frame, we can evolve the structure. We can see that, okay, this is now acting as a possible continuation structure. So now all that we're waiting for is an entry pattern on the lower time frame, something along this. Just a simple impulsive move and a small continuation structure to the downside would be more than sufficient in order for us to make our entry. like so. So this is how we are looking at what the GBP over the US dollar. And now for a final pair, which is what the GBP over the New Zealand dollar. So this one coming on to the daily time frame, we do see price coming from this impulsive movement going us with this overall corrective structure that is having a higher probability of climbing all the way to the upside. And now coming on to our 4 hour time frame. So in the 4 hour, you can see that overall structure even more clearer. And now coming on to the 1 hour. So in the 1 hour, it did forecast for this trade. Unfortunately, could not execute because this materialized while I was not looking at the charts. I was still asleep around 6 a.m. So could not execute this one. So that type of entry would have been on the breakout, stop loss below the structure. So currently would have been running somewhere around half of 1% profit. But unfortunately, we could not execute this one. But this one is playing out just like we forecasted. So what are we looking for in order to still be able to capitalize on this one? Just as first impulsive movement and then following through with what a small continuation structure would be more than sufficient in order for us to still maybe be able to capture the next possible trade on this pair. Something like this. So this is how I'm looking at what GBP and ZT. So this is how the watch list is now looking like. So on the DXY, it is still pretty much bullish on this one, on the DXY, and NZD did execute a trade on this one. So we are hoping to see how this one ends up playing out. And Euro USD waiting for confirmation. GBP USD also on this one waiting for a possible confirmation. And finally, GBP and ZD are also waiting for a possible confirmation in order for us to execute any trades on this one. But yeah, I will continue to update you, our VIP members, with screenshots on Discord. And as for the rest of you guys, I'll send at least one trade idea on Telegram so you can at least keep up with us. But for now, this is the end, guys, and I'll see you next time. Take care.